Welcome to Negotiation Skills 101, which is one of a series of videos connected to developing your key business skills. Now, in my career, I've had the good fortune to be part of many wide-ranging opportunities to negotiate across a very broad spectrum of both people and value, from a small example of trying to negotiate a room upgrade in a hotel to multi-million dollar business negotiations with international government representatives and C-level executives. So in this video, I plan to share with you some fundamentals which will help you understand what negotiation is, how to effectively plan for a negotiation, and critically, how to ensure that the outcome is favorable. So, many of us believe that selling and negotiating happen at the same time, or that negotiation is just a means by which two parties agree by trading and agreeing somewhere in the middle. A kind of punch for punch process where, as a simple example, one person wants to buy an item for $200 and offers $100 for it, and then the other person rejects the offer and says that they would only sell it for $150, and then the first person says, well, okay, let's split the difference, and they agree to trade at $125. Well, this may in fact be a good deal for both, but it may be a terrible deal for one, depending on the real or actual value of the item. How would you feel, for example, if you were the buyer here and then after buying the item for $125, found exactly the same item in the next shop for sale at $50? Or if you were the seller and then saw the buyer who just bought your item for $125, then quickly turns and sells it to a random stranger for $200. In both scenarios, there's going to be a winner and a loser. And ultimately, the outcome of a perceived win-lose scenario is that neither party will trust the other next time around. And so it's less likely that the relationship will be as productive going forward. If therefore you're in a sales role where relationships with your customers are important and the amount of business that you do with them is dependent to some extent on the quality of the relationship with them, then win-lose negotiations are definitely something you need to avoid. The reality is that negotiation is a key skill that, if done correctly, not only helps the seller to achieve his or her objectives, but also secures a mutually beneficial outcome where the buyer and the seller are very happy with each other. We therefore should always focus the outcome of a negotiation by considering some key principles. Firstly, does the outcome of the negotiation provide positive and equal value to both parties? Are there sufficient variables in the negotiation that can achieve additional activity and growth? And do you understand the needs of the party that you are negotiating with? A couple of other points would be, do you understand the value of the variables that you're negotiating? And are you sufficiently planned for the negotiation itself? These are all important factors. So before we get into the process and skills surrounding negotiation, let's take a quick look at the definition of negotiating and also deal with the popular misconception that you are negotiating when you are selling. And I do not believe this to be the case. When we look at the differences between selling and negotiating, you'll understand why. So for me, the definition of selling is when a salesman's need to sell is greater than a buyer's need to buy. Whereas the definition of negotiating is when a salesman's need to sell is equal to the buyer's need to buy, i.e. the selling has already been done. Now, this is a very important distinction. Why? Well, if you think about it, if you try negotiating on one simple area such as price when your need to sell is greater than the buyer's need to buy, then the buyer holds all the leverage. And if they don't get the price that they want, they can just walk away because they've not yet made a decision that they want what it is that you are selling. The playing field for a negotiation must be set where both parties are ready, in agreement, that they want to do a deal, and the final stage of this is around the terms of what that transaction might look like. It's often been said that a good negotiation has a win-win outcome. Now, in the context of a business where the success of your business is about building long-term relationships with customers, it's critical that your customer sees an equal value and benefit in the outcome of the negotiation. Negotiations should not be seen as a means by which you get more for less, especially if it is at the expense of the party that you're negotiating with. I like to explain this concept using a simple seesaw. So if you imagine a seesaw that starts completely horizontally, we start to see the relationship in the way the seesaw works and a negotiation. So negotiations are fundamentally about trading what we call variables. Now, imagine a variable as a single coin in your pocket, where you've got lots of coins or variables, all of different values. As you decide to give one of your coins to the person that you're negotiating with, you start to lower the ground on your seesaw because you've given some weight to the other party who has gained some weight on their seesaw. You've given something of value to them, and the balance of the seesaw has tipped you higher in the air as the person that you are negotiating with has gained something of value. The basic good practice of any negotiation is when you give something, you should always aim to get something back in return. And so now imagine the person you are negotiating with is on the other end of the seesaw. And when they receive a variable or coin of value from you, they agree to give you something in exchange. Now, they also have a pocket full of coins or variables. And so when they give you a coin back, then the seesaw levels again, and so on. The seesaw keeps seeing and soaring, so to speak, as the variables are given and received. So let's develop this seesaw analogy. Logic would suggest that the more concessions or coins that you have in your pocket, the more that you can get in return. And to some extent this is true, and we'll look at this a little bit later. But for now, I want to develop a really important area of understanding on how to create your variables list and improve the value of what you can give in a negotiation in order to get more back. Okay, so we've made a good start here and the seesaw is ready to go. In the next video, we'll look at a historical case study to understand what variables are in a negotiation and how to use them to your best effects. So I look forward to seeing you very soon in the next video.